Thanks, Haley, for your time today. It's just right before Christmas, and this is such important busy time for you. Today, I think just invite you to discuss the how we're going to use the single touch payroll for inside of Xero.
Yep.
Yeah, thanks for your time.
You're welcome, Jerry. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So just probably some background just for single touch payroll or STP. And we agree on a lot of accountant or users not aware what the STP is.
Mm-hmm.
So do you mind give us some discussion introduction for what it is?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So STP or Single Touch Payroll is a new initiative this year that the ATO has brought out. So basically it will mean that employers with 20 or more employees as at the 1st of April 2018 were required from the 1st of July to start submitting STP or single touch payroll filings to the ATO. That's going to report things like salary and wages, PAYG, super, etc. Through to the ATO each time an employer pays their staff. At Xero though, we currently have a deferral in place for those larger employers.
Yeah.
So as I said, employers with 20 or more employees were required to start filing their STP from the 1st of July this year. However, because this is a new initiative, we wanted to be really careful on the rollout of this process and ensure that all of our small business customers have a really great experience with it. So we applied to the ATO for a deferral until 31st of December this year, so just over another week.
I know.
Yeah.
Time fly.
It does. It does. It feels like only yesterday we started talking about STP.
Yeah.
So that meant that in that 6-month period, if you were an employer that had 20 or more employees, you could wait until the end of this year, so the 31st of December, to start filing your STP. You didn't have to start on the 1st of July. We did that so that we could stage a rollout to monitor and test the platform. We were really happy with how that was rolled out in the earlier months, so we sped that up, and at XeroCon we made it available to all employers with 20 or more employees.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So if that's going to be an opt-in process, if for me or someone else with a larger group of employees, then they start to opt in pretty much this week. They only got 1 week or 2 to test it before the real thing come in.
That's absolutely correct. We have been testing it, and as I said, this stage we're really happy with how everything's going. So it more just gave larger employees also the time to get their head around the change in process and what that meant for them as a business owner.
That's awesome. So how the so far the test result, like more like a massive volume of data then in and out from 2 platforms, is there any issue at the moment? Or?
We haven't experienced any, and none that we've been made aware of. We're usually the first to hear because we hear from the accountants and bookkeepers pretty quickly.
I know.
But all in all, we've had really positive feedback around the STP process. We identified when this new process was sort of made public that it was going to be a big change for the way that payroll sort of was done with small business. The first major change really with the government going digital since the census last year, so I guess that was a poor experience for a lot of people. We didn't want to repeat that. So we really thought about making sure that this didn't disrupt people's current processes. That was the mandate that was given internally, to make it as smooth and as beautiful as possible in the process. So with the current way the STP works inside Xero, once someone opts in to use STP in their Xero file, there's actually only one additional click in the payroll processing process for them to be able to file their STP to the ATO. So it's a really, really smooth transition.
That's nice. And so if for me, if I'm from the client point of view, if I want to opt in, should I call my accountant to do it, or can I call the ATO direct?
Yeah, great question. So with opting into STP inside Xero, there's 2 sides to this, being the single ledger as always. So the advisor, if the advisor being the accountant or bookkeeper normally does the payroll for the client, they can file or lodge the STP on behalf of their client. there is an opt-in process, and later on we'll go through a demo of how that looks. But basically the process is that in the initial setup stage or the opt-in process, they are required to call the ATO or let the ATO know that they are using that particular software to lodge their STP. So in that process, they're actually giving the ATO what's called an SSID or a software ID number, and that's unique to your practice. From a small business owner's perspective, they have their own software ID number. So if your customer or your small business client is normally doing their own payroll, they would choose to opt in. They would go through the process of opting in, calling the ATO and registering their SSID. And from that point forward, anybody in their org that has payroll admin rights will be able to file STP, correct. Now, if that small business client is going to go away on holiday and they contact their accountant and say, can you please look after my payroll while I'm on leave, you will need to opt in separately because of the different SSID number. So both the accountant and bookkeeper or the small business owner can file and lodge the STP. However, they're both required to opt in separately.
Okay, that's good. But for the accountant, pretty much once they opt in one, then you're done for all your clients.
Correct, yeah. So we've made that a really smooth process as well. So the accounting firm or the bookkeeping practice will have the same software ID number for all of their Xero files that they look after. Correct. So I always say to the partners, look, the first person that opts in for the practice is drawn the short straw. They have to do everyone else's homework and call the ATO to register the software ID number. But once that's done, they're free to then use single touch payroll for all of the rest of their Xero orgs.
So that all the multiple Xero accounts all been set up, that you don't have to come back again one by one doing it.
Correct. It will just be a matter of clicking through the opt-in process, but there's no need to call the ATO.
That's good. But how will that impact if I'm a business owner? I got multiple business, multiple ABN. Do I need to opt in for every single of them, or just? Yeah,
unfortunately, at this stage, that's how it works, because there isn't the way we group files as such. The files from a small business owner are standalone and separate. So I always recommend, keep that person on the phone and register all of your Xero orgs in one go.
That's right. So one phone call, get everything done.
Correct.
The other question is, say, when we pick up a new file in the next few months, we probably don't know if the client will opt in by themselves, or when a lot of time when we ask the client, maybe 50-50 chance they don't know if they opt in or not.
Yeah, great question.
Yeah, how do we check it?
Perfect. So when you log into your Xero file, into the Payrun dashboard, if you haven't logged in yet, and as long as no one's removed it, there is an opt-in banner there. So if someone has removed it without opting in, there's the STP settings inside your payroll settings that they can go through. However, once you go in and go through the process of opting in, you're then going to have that additional column appear on the Payrun dashboard, basically showing all of the payruns that have had filed STP next to them. So from that Payrun dashboard, you'll be able to quickly identify which payruns have been filed to the ATO and which ones are still outstanding.
But if they're all showing outstanding, do I need to file them, every single one of them, or?
Absolutely not, So if you've taken advantage of that 6-month deferral that we gave you, and you decide this week is the week you're going to start filing your STP, there is no need to go back for the last 6 months, which is great because they're year-to-date figures that we're sending through to the ATO. So we can file today and that will push through all of the data, from the 1st of July onwards, and it means then that there's no having to go back and check. It also means that's really great from an adjustment point of view. Payroll adjustments are a fact of life. They happen every day in every business and every organisation. The amount of times when I was a payroll officer that I would get a timesheet after I've pushed post on that pay run is not uncommon. So the way that adjustments will be dealt with STP in Xero is that you can revert that one last pay run in that pay calendar to draft, make your adjustments and then repost. Or alternatively, and that's probably more the one that I would recommend, is doing an unscheduled pay run and putting your adjustments through that. Because they are year-to-date figures that get filed, you can send through a negative amount, because as long as throughout the year it's positive overall, you shouldn't see any issues with that.
Yeah, I think that's probably going to be one of the advantages for Xero is the way they processing payroll is so flexible. Not like the other software. Sometimes they lock in. You can't do anything. Change. Good for larger business, security, whatever reason.
Yeah.
But for small business owner, I find clients sometimes have to amend some payroll. If they have to go through the whole process, it can be a really lengthy process. The Xero makes things a lot easier.
Yeah. Well, beautiful accounting software isn't our motto. So.
Right. I think we're probably going to jump into the demo.
The demo, perfect.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Right. Thank you.
So, because in Australia there's 657,000 small businesses that run their business using Xero small business software, and we have more than 1 million employees across Australia that are paid using Xero's payroll. That makes it Australia's leading online payroll platform. So as I said before, this is why STP was a really important problem for Xero to solve for its small business customers. Nice and beautifully easy to use and not too much disruption. So today I'm going to demo two things around single touch payroll. I'm going to demo firstly what it looks like for your small business customers. So there's two sides to single touch payroll. There's the small business owner's side. So that's the small business owner that likes to prepare and process their own payroll for them and their staff. And then there are the small business owners that outsource their payroll to their accountants and bookkeepers. So both solutions are about 90+% the same. I'm going to show you both because I think as the advisor, you're going to get a lot of these questions come the new year.
I don't know
how do I do this? So, as I said, pretty much exactly the same. There's a couple of small differences that are really important to sort of point out. So let me jump into the demonstration. So the first demonstration is showing you what it looks like from your client's perspective, the small business owner. So this is the dashboard for payroll inside Xero. As I said before, if you haven't opted into single touch payroll inside your Xero org, you will see this banner that sits above your pay run history dashboard. If we click on opt-in, we will get the message saying that we're going through and opting into single touch payroll.
That's nice.
And then we'll come to the screen that gets us to review our organisational details. So from here, it's really important to check our legal and trading name, our ABN, our Australian business number, the postal address and our phone number. Now, if any of these details are correct for your small business customer, they can simply go back to the general settings area of their Xero file. Clicking on update organisational details will take us to that same area. So when we're happy with the information that it's true and correct, we're going to go through to continue. So this is the little bit, I guess, of that first initial setup. We've got to call the ATO. So we call the ATO, again, step one gives us the phone number. And step two is providing you the information to give the proof of ownership. So ensure that you are a contact on that ATO contact list. They're going to ask you a series of questions, but the most important one is down the bottom here, that software ID or SSID number. As I said before, for every Xero org from a small business owner's perspective, this is a different number. Once your very helpful ATO representative says that they've recorded that software ID number, you can click on I'm connected, opt into STP, and it now gives you an alert down the bottom to say that you've enrolled for single touch payroll. So from here, our pay run history dashboard looks pretty much the same as it has. We now have this additional column showing my STP filing. So this is going to alert us when we haven't filed or where we have filed, as we discussed earlier. And any changes I need to make are sitting up in my single touch payroll settings option. But I'm going to go through and I'm going to complete a pay run. So add a pay run. Now these steps are exactly the same as we've always done using payroll inside Xero. It's for my next pay period, so I'm going to select next. And then it's going to take me into where all my timesheets or my employees have been entered. Now, I'm going to pretend that I'm really happy. I've done the review. I've, checked against the timesheets and that all that data is correct. So I'm just going to scroll down to post pay run. Once I've posted, you'll now note that I've got this additional button filed sitting here.
Yep.
So as I said before, there's one extra click once you're opted in, and this is it. So if I click on file, I then see that authorization to file. So because I'm a small business owner, this authorization to file is saying that I am that authorized person.
Yep.
I agree that I am, and I'm going to file it. Now this status bar switches to pending and then flicks to filed very, very quickly.
Yeah.
This information about who filed, when it was filed, and the fact that the status is filed is going to remain there. So I'll always be able to go back and have a look if I'm ever questioning the information.
More like a history, you can track back who did it.
Correct. Yep. So I can do that inside the actual pay run information, but from my main payroll dashboard, I now have that sitting as filed.
Nice.
So as we discussed earlier, we don't have to go back and retrospectively file for each of our pay runs because it's sending through year-to-date figures. So we have those 3 that are outstanding from earlier in the year, but I've sent through that information now.
Nice.
And that's it. That's
So
it for our small business customers.
That's impressive.
So what I'm going to do is actually flick through to our advisors. So from an accountant or bookkeeper's perspective, this is really where we provide payroll processing services within our practices. Again, we see exactly the same as what we did before.
Yeah.
So we know that this client hasn't opted in, and this is going to be the first time that we've opted into a client's single touch payroll in our practice.
Yep.
So we're going to click through opt in for this one.
Is there a requirement for any client to pick on, or any random client that should be fine?
Just the first one that you need to process the payroll for that it's relevant.
Yep.
So again, we're going to go through exactly the same process, check their organisational details.
Yep.
This is for the customer or the small business owner.
Yep.
Again, if any of these details are incorrect, go back to the organisation or general settings in the org, or click on update organisational details. But we're happy with this, so we're just going to click through to continue.
Yeah.
Now, step 2 is our agent details.
Nice.
So we can see on this page there's a little bit of information. The first one is the agent's ABN. That's greyed out because it's actually pulling through from your practice settings. So if this is incorrect, we need to go back into my Xero and update that.
Yep.
The first time you do this, you need to enter your agent number, and you can only have one agent in the practice that you're filing on behalf of, the agent contact name, and then the phone number as well.
Yeah.
I'm going to click continue here. And then again, we're going to have to connect to the ATO. So it's the same steps as our small business customers. We're going to call the ATO. Step 1 gives us the phone number, and step 2 is giving us the information to provide proof of ownership, essentially.
Yeah.
This time, that software ID number is going to be the same for all of the clients that we file on behalf of for our org, so for our practice, so we don't have to call the ATO each time, which is a lot better.
Yeah. You're going to want to call 100 times.
Correct. So once we've provided all of those details to the ATO, and they are really happy with what we've given them, and they say that we're connected, again we're going to say that I'm connected, and we'll get that notification enrolled for single touch payroll. From our pay run history dashboard, again we're going to add a pay run. It's again going to be for that next fortnight in the pay calendar. We're going to be pretending that we're really happy and we've done our due diligence checks on our timesheets, and we're going to post that pay run for the staff.
Yeah.
This time when we select file, we're going to note that we get a fairly standard looking authorization to file.
But
so we see
more than the normal standard.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep. So this is what we're used to seeing when we lodge other tax returns, BASs.
Yeah.
Correct. Yep. So this definitely is not saying that it is not getting that authorization. It's saying that you have that authorization from the client.
Yep.
Again, that you have it and file. Like we saw before, we're going to get that status update and then flick to file pretty quickly.
Yeah, that's really quick. Easy.
Correct. And then once we close out of that and we go back to our main dashboard, again, our filed is sitting there and we're good to go.
Yay. Great.
Excellent.
Thank you so much. That's
No
really
worries.
impressive. Yeah, look, I think kind of maybe going to be a Christmas gift for me.
Let's
That's so
hope
much
so.
easier now. It's,
Yeah.
I was really worried as a client will call here and there. I don't know how to answer it now. But now I think after this, I'm pretty confident what we're going to do.
Oh, excellent.
Great.
Thanks,
you so
Jerry.
much.
Not a problem at all.
Thank you.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.